Not all job applications actually need a cover letter, and not all employers ask for one. And even if they ask for them, are they going to read them with the love and attention that you might have put into them in the first place? These are all questions that come up when we discuss cover letters or messages. So why do we need them at all? Well, as you know from all of my previous videos, yes, I'm a fan of the traditional job application route online, the usual stuff, the bread and butter, but I'm an even bigger fan of approaching employers directly and networking to find those people who are actually in the position to make a decision to hire you for a job, or at least know somebody who's in a position to hire you for that job. So if you're not communicating with them in the style of a cover letter or message, what are you actually saying to them? They are the thing in your toolkit that you can use to create intrigue with an employer to then land an interview and potentially a job offer at the end of it. They're also really useful to have around in that once you've created your cover letter or message, you have really clearly articulated your skills and experience and reasons for wanting to work in that job or industry. So you've got those to refer to so you can speak about yourself more confidently so that if the phone rings and it's an employer who is keen to discuss a role with you, you know exactly what to say. So yes, we do need one. And since we're creating one, why not make it the absolute best that we can? My name's Jacob, and in my day job, my 9 to 5, I run a team here in Australia who help very successful professionals reach their own personal goals through accessing additional work. And I've left that deliberately vague, but if you're really keen to see what I do, then just jump on my LinkedIn profile and everything will make sense. And by night, I do this. I record videos and I coach everyday people who, not unlike myself a few years ago, just for whatever reason, haven't had access to really good career advice. So they've not had any advice or guidance onto how to level up their own career and raise the ceiling on what they thought they could be achieving through work. I think it's very important, and that's why I'm here. In this video, I'm going to take the time to go through and actually roast the actual cover letter that I used back in 2022 to obtain the job that I currently have, which over time has helped me almost quadruple my income from when before I started this job. By going through that cover message, you're going to see that it's far from perfect, but it actually landed me a phone interview less than 12 hours after I hit send on it. That's going to give us a blueprint to work from to create the ideal cover letter, which then you can have and use to land your next job. But before we go into exact wordings and what to include, let's have a look at what that cover letter should actually look like, who's sending it to, and how we're sending it to them. So a cover letter nowadays probably isn't going to be the traditional letter format with your address and date under there, although some job applications may require that. It's more likely to be in the form of an email, a LinkedIn message, or even a WhatsApp message, which, as I said before, you can use as the bare bones for a script if you were to get anyone on the phone or meet them in person to sell yourself into that job. And as usual, we're making sure that anything that we send out in regards to applying for a new job goes directly to the person in a decision-making capacity. That could be a team leader, a manager, or owner or founder of a company. So let's have a look at the actual cover letter I sent and how you can make it better. All right, I'm just going to jump from the camera here down to my screen down here. So above my head, what you can see is an actual screenshot of the exact email that I sent to my boss back on the 3rd of February, 2022, which landed me my current job. So I want to roast it. I want to give you guys an insight to what made this work, what could have been better, and what I'd do next time, and what I would advise that everybody does now to maximize the opportunity of getting something like this in front of an employer to give them the best chance of getting a job. So what you'll immediately notice here is that it's a pretty big chunk of text. I think what I would do now in hindsight is just break it up a little bit, because I know, especially in the industry, the recruitment industry that I was applying to here, things move at a very fast pace. A lot of this may have just been simply overlooked. It's probably too much to absorb in one go, and I probably needed to chunk it out a little bit better than this. Strong title. I mean, subject line. My boss would have known exactly what I was doing here. What I've since learned from this, and I'll go on to in the document behind my head here, is just how to maximize the subject line. I saw a video on social media probably shortly after I sent this video and when I started working in recruitment, to the strength of the hard, solid lines in an email subject title. Ever since then, I've been using it with great success. I think kind of in terms of sending out people to jobs in a very competitive recruitment landscape, most of my emails get opened and read and taken seriously. And I think a lot of that is to do with that hard line, which I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. But I think there's more I could have done there with the subject line. Had it been on a day, or I sent this at 10 p.m, so it's probably one of the first emails my boss saw in the morning. Had it not been in that kind of framing, and if it had come with a flurry of emails, this may have got overlooked fairly easily. So I'd definitely make that subject line a little bit stronger here. So I went for a dear, so quite formal. Obviously, depending on your relationship and your comfortability, I guess, a dear or a hi would simply go there. So straight into the introduction. I introduce myself here. I find your contact details on the website, and immediately giving a reason for why I've contacted them. I've given a strong reason here for why I apply, why I'm applying for this specific job here. So to further progress in the employment and recruitment field, more fulfillment. Back at this time, ChatGPT wasn't in operation, so there's no kind of worry about that being used. But it's quite formal. So I think now this could be looked at as something that's been spat out by ChatGPT. So again, just keep that in mind for anything you're doing moving forward. The odd mistake as well, I don't mind if you put a small I instead of a capital I occasionally, just to let people know that you're not on ChatGPT. I think can go a long way in today's landscape, but never mind. So why I've applied for the role in the first sentence, that's good. What the personal interest is, and a genuine reason here for wanting to do the job. And I think this is a really key aspect of a lot of job applications and speaking with employers that I think is missed. I think people are quite robotic in the way that they say things, and they approach an employer as a very professional conversation. I would like to progress my career and help your revenue and all this kind of stuff, but giving them a genuine interest, a genuine reason for why you're interested in working in that field, I think can go a long way. So by putting that fairly early in the email probably served me well. A little bit about my kind of personality background there. Just kind of finishing that strong there, and then just indicating immediately that my CV is attached. That could have probably been moved to the end. I don't know whether at that point some employers would have gone, oh, cheers for this, I'm just going to have a look at your CV straight away and kind of ignore the other good stuff here. So that little sentence there, please find my resume attached, could have probably gone a little bit later in the email there. Explaining what I'm doing at the moment is key for the next bit. And then just thinking this next section here, I believe what I was trying to do is think about the mechanics of the job that I was applying into, although I didn't know a great deal about it. Thinking that a job in recruitment, I'm going to be looking after a lot of people, having some high-level conversations. I'm going to have to balance everything that comes from the people I'm working with, as well as the clients that I'm trying to fill, and just trying to paint the picture that I can handle it and that I'm used to it and that I've done it before. That's what this section here is about. A little bit about skills, and then a bit about kind of record keeping and stuff like that. So always think what's going to be a headache in your future employer's mind when they're taking somebody on. In recruitment, the headache is what we call a CRM, a candidate recruitment managing system. I don't know if I've got that right. And they probably want somebody who is confident enough to be able to handle something like that they don't have to exhaust loads of training time on. So just kind of addressing that, and I guess just wiping away that barrier from the very outset is good, which is why I believe I would have written there about record keeping and keeping everything highly accurate. And in the field I work in now, everything has to be super compliant and accurate. So I think that probably served me well as well. Relationships with both employees and employers, start to finish, practical arrangements, all that kind of thing. And then just making it clear that I feel like I could genuinely, easily and very well transfer my skills into the needs of the company I'm going into, and just making that very clear, that is your intention, to transfer your skills into that company. And this is something I've touched on in a previous video. If you're looking at either a company or a field that's in slight competition to your employer who you're going after, that can often serve you very, very well, because they're going to want to know, what skills are they bringing? What do they know about these other systems? What do they know about how things work in this other niche that we want to nab and integrate into our operation? So I think something like that's quite good to add in. And to tie it off, I quite like to write a little bit about the practicality of you doing that role, because especially nowadays with AI, and I just can only assume when an advert goes on the big job boards now, they get flooded with hundreds, if not thousands of applications, half of which you don't know are real from AI. They don't know if it's phishing for emails, phishing for contact details. They don't know what's coming from a recruitment company. what's coming from people who are just spitting out hundreds of applications to any job that they see coming up. They don't know it's quite genuine. So I like to add something there on a practical note that you either live locally or you're in a commutable distance or you're going to relocate for the role. I think that just adds a lot of value and a lot of credibility to the application. Here was kind of before I knew that I'd have to move 400 kilometers for the job. I was kind of pitching here to work from home or a local shared office. That didn't end up happening. Just making it clear that I was flexible with hours, I think, again, is just wipes away another practical barrier. And then just offering up that I can do any checks that would be required from the new employer's perspective. I knew working in this industry would require the following checks. So just being very upfront that I'm happy to do that, I think probably helped my cause. And again, the triple vaccination, that was probably during COVID time there as well. If this is of interest at all to you, just looking at this last line here, I would be very keen to speak with you via phone for more in-depth discussion. Thank you for my time, for your time reading my email. It's okay. I think what I could have done there is probably gone with a stronger ask. When can we catch up for a call? What days are you free next week for a call? When could I pop in? That just a bit more of an assertive call to action there, I think would have been a little bit better. And then I attached my CV there. So that's what I sent. And let's have a look at how I would tweak it now and give you guys a framework for what you can do to land your next best job. Okay, so what you can see behind me now forms part of the DIY toolkit that I put together over months and months and months on my website. This is the aspect of cover letters and messages. So what you can see here, these numbered chunks, numbered paragraphs here, are the breaks in the cover letter. So number 1 would be its own paragraph, number 2 would be another paragraph, and so on. So remember I chatted about possibly breaking up my actual cover letter that I sent, and this is how I would do it now. So obviously you'd start the message or email with dear or hi so-and-so. Then you need to immediately state why you're applying for that role. And this is also useful as well in case the business is recruiting for multiple positions, because if a company requires or receives a cover letter, they might not know to associate it with that specific position or team. They won't know who to forward it on to the team. So just make it very, very clear that you pretty much mirror the exact role that is in an advert or that you think they may be hiring for. Stick that in the top line, and then a brief introduction as to why you're specifically interested in that job and why at this point it makes time for the move. So here's a little example here. Writing to apply for the role of forklift driver. Got a thing about forklift drivers, I'm sure you know, in response to your recent ad for a new team member. And then just making it clear that you're an experienced driver, seeking employment, and a little bit of why. It's a very simple first paragraph there, just giving what you're applying for and why, essentially. Paragraph 2 is going to be the value that you bring, what's in it for them, which is probably the most important section in this first part of the cover letter. So your chance to put your skills and achievements from your CV that are relevant to the position, and then apply them to the position that we're going for. So 2 to 3 items here work well. So the kind of framework here in section 2 is to add 2 to 3 items of your specific skills or achievements that you pull directly from your CV that you can go on there, which again is why a good updated CV is always important. So for example, here you could add in 1 skill, 1 previous piece of achievement, and then 1 piece of experience, just to give you that nice little framework to follow. So here the example is, in my previous 2 roles, I've been responsible for preparing the warehouse for quarterly health and safety audits. To date, all have been successfully passed, yada, yada, yada. I've also got some experience in sales, just offering them something else. Could also offer value in terms of securing new business for the company. So that was 1 skill, 1 previous achievement, and 1 piece of experience that you could bring to that company. Nice and easy. Number 3, why it's a good fit. So again, this will come up in the interview. Why have you chosen to apply for this position? So with any position that you apply for, it's very, very good practice to have I've written flattery here, but not quite flattery, but at least some understanding of what they do and why they do it, and selling it back to them and giving them kind of an identity of, a matching of your values with theirs. And this is a really good way to do it. So why is it a good fit? So flatter the employer, as well as aligning your values with theirs. Do your research, add that in. Always pick a recent achievement. So this is quite easy to find. So going on a company website, social media, newsletter, they'll have bound to put an update or something that they're proud of. And people get very caught up in companies and in businesses of the achievements of that business. So by bringing that up, everybody who, if they're interviewing one person, two person, who gets in front of them, they're going to be very flattered by this. They're going to know that not only you've done their research, but you're going to patter to their ego a little bit, which can't go wrong in terms of getting your foot in the door. Right, you were pleased to see the advert and that you'd like to be, pleased to see the news and that you'd like to be involved. And then find out what their values or mission statements and align something from your own values and morals. Again, we're probably getting into the weeds a little bit here, but if you can do this and have a solid structure for this, I think it's really worth it. So that would read, for example, in my research, notice that your business has achieved a zero net balance for carbon emissions, just something random there. And then as someone who's keen on spending time in nature, that aligns very well with my values. And then it's one of the values of the business is transparency on workers' salaries, just a random example. And then tying that back to your own value of being honest. So again, just that matching. Everything here is just making sense for the employer. Oh, this person, it makes sense for them to come and interview, for them to come and get a position with us. Number 4, as I wrote in my own cover message that I roasted, why it will work practically. So hopefully, like I said here, everything above will have them hooked. It's now time to let them know that you're someone who this could actually work for. So you've kind of gone tick, 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 jab, 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 jab. And then this is the right hook. This is why it's actually going to work for you to work with them. So why it's going to realistically work for them in terms of your location, the accessibility, the tools and equipment. Perhaps you live close. Perhaps they have the accessibility that you require as a person if you've got a disability or anything like that. Why that works with the setup they've already got. And tools and equipment, if you've got your own and they require you to have your own, then that's a good sell and something else good to add in here. You can be quite specific in terms of your actual commute. So 3 train stops away, for example. And then a good idea to state your availability. So this again ties into the practicality of it. So you may be contacting them after seeing a specific advert saying that we need someone for this date. By matching that, you've immediately got them on the hook. Or by stating your availability as to when you could start to them, even if they haven't quite stated that, because that gives them something tangible then to think of. If you say, right, I'm available on the 1st of July, they're going to think, for example, great, start of the financial year, we can give this person a fresh start, all their pay slips will be clean, all that kind of stuff. It just gives them something tangible and something realistic for them to then start thinking of you as somebody who could be in their business and why it's just going to work from there. So I won't read that one, but that's the practicalities there. And then next steps. So here we need to subtly request an interview rather than just say, hey, let me know, or hope you've enjoyed reading this. Subtly actually going for the ask here is important, because that's what we're after at the end of the day. And then close with just a thank you. A bit of gratitude goes a long way. So this one would read, I very much appreciate the opportunity to interview for this role in person. Happy to also visit or take a call prior to the interview for an informal chat if helpful. I think this could probably be a bit stronger, as I alluded to in my own cover message. When are you free for an interview? What times do you have available next week that I can come and visit? Just a little bit stronger, not asking if, asking when. And then thank you for considering this. And then just signing off there. So what that would actually look like to give you something tangible. So these are all the sections, the chunks and the info and dot points of what goes into it. So if you are writing a formal letter, this is probably how it should look, with those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs there, broken up a little bit more to make it look like this. And then in an email, this is how it's going to look here. A couple of things to go through in this email just to make sure it's maximized for you. So remember I talked about when I was roasting my own cover message about the subject line? So I pretty much just wrote this, application for X, and then hoped that the employer would pick it up and make assumptions and it wouldn't get lost in their inbox. Let's make it stronger. So application, hard vertical line, your name, hard vertical line, your number. Again, easy for them to find in their inbox. Even if they don't read the rest, they say, oh, this guy's looking for a forklift driver role. I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to call him. And then your availability. So you've got why you're applying, who you are, how to contact them, and when you're available from. It's just so much stronger. That's 4 times as strong as the subject line that I sent to my employer. I think that's the best way to do it. And I've had great success from implementing that in the past. This is how it would look in an email. So in an email, obviously, you can afford to be a little bit more wordy, so it can pretty much reflect what a formal letter would be. What I've done here, though, is just highlight in bold what you could pluck out from this email to then put in something like a LinkedIn or a WhatsApp message if you're getting that close. With obviously some of these platforms and messaging for the first time, they might have character limits. So just make sure that you trim this down a little bit accordingly. So a message through LinkedIn could perhaps read, "Hi, I'm emailing to apply for the role of X. In response to X, in my previous 2 roles, I've done this. I've also got this." You don't really need to write about your research then. You're probably not going to have space in the character limit. And then adding in about your practicalities. So that was kind of point 4 on the chunking list above. And then going for the ask. So just to sum up there, your LinkedIn message or WhatsApp message should be, "Hello, why you're applying, what you've done, a little bit extra, why it's practical for you to have the job, and when can I come and interview, and thank you very much." And that would form the basis. And then obviously, where possible, don't forget to attach your CV if they haven't already seen it. So 20 minutes there of going through my own cover message and what the ideal cover message would be. So I hope you've taken some value from that. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comment section there. I can't do my usual pointing above the shoulders because I don't got space. I'm in a little circle. But please reach out if I can help in any way. And YouTube will no doubt show you another great video. Hopefully it's as helpful as this one. Hopefully it's one of mine, but I am still new to doing this. Hopefully that's been of value to you. And I look forward to hearing about how this has served you. Thank you.